We are here today to talk to Miss Carranza, Mr. John Adams, and Mr. Sanabria. Good morning, Mr.
Good
Adams.
morning.
Welcome to my studio. Please have a seat. As the founding father of the United States, how do you feel about slavery? Knowing from your past, you did not have slaves.
Well, I never did support having slavery in America. I think of it as a human right violation. You take a prisoner from his country and separate them from their culture and their families. Just like in Equiano's narrative he discussed, he was kidnapped and sold to wealthy people like an animal and became a slave at the age of 9, which took his childhood away.
I noticed how you mentioned men and equality, but as the husband of Abigail Adams, she wrote you a letter about women wanting equality. How do you feel about women equality?
I believe that women cannot do what men can do. That's why I did not pay much attention to my wife's letter. Even if I had paid attention to it, no one would have taken action to what she wrote.
See where you are going, Mr. Adams. Slavery is a big impact to the country. African Americans wanted freedom to live in their country, but they were sold to America like animals. As to what Thomas Jefferson said, all men are created equally. Why not African Americans?
I believe in what Thomas Jefferson said. In fact, all men are truly created equal. But in our times, equality is just for rich men.
For your time, John Adams, and thank you for being honest. In the modern world, do you still see slavery? How do you feel about it?
I do think slavery is not as cruel as it was back in the 1700s. There is still slavery, but the population of people who are being enslaved are not as much as before. Now it's known as maids, but they're not treated as slaves or worse, as animals. Have you seen how they were sold back then? Now maids are well respected, paid, treated decently, and they can live their lives however they want.
I know and I agree to what you're saying. Maids really do have more freedom than that in 1700s. Do you think slavery changed the nation?
Slavery transformed America into an economic power. All of those peoples who worked really hard on the plantation of tobacco and cotton that were traded within the country and other places around the world are the ones who generated the money to this country and are the reason of why America is now known as one of the richest places around the world.
I suppose when the wealthy people brought all the slaves to America, they did not think we were going to be the ones giving them power and money they always wanted. I also have another question about men and women equality. Do you think there's still a feud between women and men equality? At this moment, how do you feel about it?
There's still a feud between women and men equality, but it's not as bad as it was back in the 1700s. Now women can do most of the things that men can. Now women can have the works they desire, such as military, doctor, architecture, actually most of the things that women couldn't do back then.
Women are surely respectable, and so are men. Equality is a serious must in the country. Women and men are both respected and both are human beings. Thank you for your time, Ms. Carranza. Mr. Sanabria, before you moved here to the U.S., do you think you've accomplished your American dream? How did you accomplish it?
I've accomplished my American dream by having my children born and raised in better living conditions than I did when I was a child.
What is your American dream?
My American dream is to see my children succeed and get far in their life. It would be the most of the parents' dream in their life. My dream is to see my children succeed in their life and be successful. I would do everything to support them and rather want them to succeed in their life than I would in mine. I am old and I'm happy with my life. All I want now is for my children to be happy with theirs and have successful jobs and a brighter future for them.
I see, Mr. Sanabria. Do you agree that there is still a difference between the treatment of men and women? In the interview I had earlier with Ms. Carranza, she said that men and women are treated equally. Do you agree to that?
I do not agree. Men today still have more power than women, whether we see it or not. Men are greater than women and they can do more things than women can. Like Thomas Jefferson said, all men are treated equally. He said all men, not women, because as we see it, men are still greater than women.
I see, Mr. Sanabria. There are people who still think men are greater than women, and some people think that women and men are equal. Thank you for your honest answers. That's all for today. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you for giving us your time.